Today we go over the best weapons in the Monster Hunter Wilds open beta test.
I know you love that shit, man.
I know everyone has their opinions on what the best weapons are, how strong and overpowered some weapons are, and what weapons are absolute dog. We are not going to listen to my opinions, or anyone's for that matter, on who is the best. Today we are looking at the speedrunner world records on the hardest challenge of the beta, Rey Dau. Then we will be discussing what this means for the full release and how this applies to you, my dear viewers. Hello, by the way. I hope you're having a great day so far. What you see right now is a picture of the Japanese community tier list. This was a general consensus on weapon strength as a whole, but we are not consulting this for anything other than the names of the weapons that will be used on the speedrun leaderboards. Now let's pull that up, but first off, these guys are nuts. These Rey Dau times and runs in general are super impressive. I've included in the description links for each run. Check them out if you're interested. Now down to business. Are you surprised by the leaderboard? Maybe weapons you thought would be lower ended up on the higher end, and vice versa. What do you think this means for the final release? Absolutely nothing. Well, mostly nothing. Here's a similar leaderboard for the previous entry in the Monster Hunter franchise, the Monster Hunter Rise demo. The hardest challenge was Magnum Alo, and this is the leaderboard for the day before the demo ended. Now, here's the speedrunner leaderboard for the actual game in version 1.1.2 and 2.0. Pretty different, right? Here's the thing about demos and betas. We are working with an early snapshot of the game in progress. Changes are subject to happen. Rise Hunting Horn was nerfed hard after the demo because Capcom hates to see a dude bro winning. We also have the inability to customize builds. Some weapons have game-changing skills. We were working in the beta with the Charge Blade and Gun Lance without artillery. We have no idea if there are skills like Rapid Morph in the game to push Switch Axe and Charge Blade even further. We don't know if Quick Sheath affects Longsword Special Sheath. We haven't seen the implications of Offensive Guard being used on Greatsword, Sword and Shield, Lance, and Gun Lance with the new easy-to-use Perfect Guard mechanic. Can you imagine how strong Artillery and Offensive Guard are going to be on Gun Lance now that the shells also get buffed by raw attack increases? Oh boy, our poor downtrodden Gun Lancers are eating with Wilds. We are also working with very different strategies for each weapon. Let's take a look back at the leaderboard for the Wilds beta. You might be looking at that whole rockfall or no rockfall thing and wondering what that is all about. So let's discuss. Everyone knows about the rockfalls that do a static amount of damage and knock the monster down for you. Well, most weapons in this state of the game benefit from the strategy of chaining rockfalls and leading Rey Dau to other rockfalls, not just for good static damage, but for the full knockdown DPS. The cons of this strategy were that you had to spend a portion of the run on your Sacred using lure pods to run Rey Dau around to the next rockfall. Some weapons benefit greatly from this strategy, while other weapons skip the strategy altogether because it would not benefit them as much, at least to my knowledge. Charge Blade, for example, has Savage Axe mode, and that has so much crowd control capability with its high stun values and high damage knockdowns that it just did not need to employ Rockfall strategy, as well as Rockfall strategy could have actually harmed the run considering the fact that Charge Blade needs to hit a perfect guard or Focus Strike to even be able to enter the enhanced Savage Axe mode. And you have the same kind of deal with Longsword, as the runner relied on EI counters to get to red gauge quickly before doing more Helm Breakers into Spirit Release. Rey Dau getting knocked down over and over would have made getting to the high damage bursts take more time. Hunting Horn, I presume, opted to fight square up because of the bubbles, but if you watch the runner did not seem to drop many bubbles at a time, which makes me believe that the Rockfall strategy could have been employed for a faster time, especially considering the ability to cue songs on the go. A Rockfall, Knockdown, and Bubble Drop into Perform and Encore might have done well. Same problem with Dual Blades. I saw no real need not to use Rockfall strategy. Of course, this leads to another issue with these kinds of leaderboards: inconsistency. Unlike the full release data for the games, where multiple hunts are taken into account with many different speedrunners participating, the single hunt leaderboards only give us so much to work off of. Not to mention that it is very possible that weapons like Hunting Horn and Dual Blades did not have anyone super competitive participating. Even my Hunting Horn GOAT, Amadeus, didn't post a Rey Dau run. These type of leaderboards are subject to change drastically in short amounts of time. Here's a picture of the Rise demo on day 2 compared to day 12. Also, here's the difference between a day or two in Wilds beta. All of that being said, this is still a better indicator of overall weapon strength than a random dude talking about how every weapon felt or arbitrary tier lists. Now, why should you care? I'll tell you why. Balance is important, and in order to talk about balance, we have to have a good idea of what is truly strong or weak. Let's face it, the common Monster Hunter player sticks to one weapon and may branch out to a second weapon, maybe a third or fourth if they are passionate about the game as a whole. Someone with a lack of knowledge on Gunlance could watch a Rio Gunlance speedrun and think that it looks way too strong and easy. They might think that anyone could do a Gunlance speedrun. Same with how common the Monster Hunter player seems to think that every person who touches Longsword can use it as efficiently as Peppo because Longsword OP. Every weapon has nuance and personality. Maybe leaderboards are not the easiest ways to pin down what is truly the strongest weapon or not, but it does give us a frame of reference on how we should think about the weapons as a whole. Watching someone have to work hard to execute counter upon counter perfectly and pick out times to go for burst damage while the monster fights back, only to get a lower than middle position on the board, while someone else can just chain stun and knock down the monster the whole hunt while doing way more damage in the meantime, most definitely shows us something. Watching two weapons like Sword and Shield and Insect Glaive employ the same exact strategy and have completely different times by the end of the hunt most definitely shows us something. That being said, my advice is this: play what you want, but at the end of the day, be happy with your choice. When looking at other weapons, the grass may be greener on the other side. There are unique challenges and strengths to every weapon. Also remember that in the right hands, any weapon could still smoke you at any given moment if you aren't playing the weapon you have in your hands well, which should be exciting to you. There is room for improvement. There is no instant recipe for success in Monster Hunter. It does not matter how many definitive and ultimate tier lists and rankings you watch, the right weapon is the one in your hands. The best weapon for you is the one you are best with. There is always something new to learn. Stay meaty, my friends.
I've got dinner ready. Let him cook.